Well, 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 well. Welcome. And today, I'm recording on my phone, so audio and video might be a little bit different. But we're going to be painting a miniature. I put it in my intro, so I figured that we should probably do that. Now, I'm going to just show how I paint things. There's 1.5 million better tutorials on how to paint out there than the one I have. But, so here, I'll show you the brush that I will be using for today. Oop, if it decides to focus. There we go. This is just a number 5 round brush. I've had it for a while now. I got it at Hobby Lobby in a pack. It's just going to be our basing brush. I put our miniature using a little bit of sticky tack. I put it on top of a previous paint bottle. That way just to hold it. So we got this. I have 2 solo cups full of clean water. 1 and 2. And then I have my my little bitty mixing platter here. I put paint on here, and then I put a little bit of water to make sure it's nice and thin. So how we'll do that is I just grab water, and then I'll mix it on here. You can see my 2 darker colors usually go there, and then those are all the different colors. I've been using this for a while. I should probably take out the paint. I do it every once in a while. Again, I got this, I don't even remember. I think I got it at Walmart for like 25 cents. It was really, really cheap. It didn't need to be anything great. It just needs to hold colors. Oh, but you're probably asking, well, what are we going to paint? We're going to paint those guys? No, we're not going to paint those today. Today, we're going to be painting this guy. That's right. I 3D printed him off of my resin printer, and this is who we're going to be painting. So we'll put him over there for right now. And then the colors that we'll be using, it's going to be really easy for getting most of this done. We're going to be using 3 colors, 2 from Citadel and 1 from Folk Art. So right here, we're going to be using this Kislev Flesh. This is going to be the base color on the entire model, basically. And then after that, we'll do some highlights with some Flayed 1 Flesh. This is just like a little bit of a lighter color. And then on his face, only his face area, we're going to be hitting with some of this. It's like a peachy color. So if we look at it, it's like a warm peachy. And then we'll go back and do his eyes. We'll do white and then black on the indents. And then we probably put a little bit of red on his lips. But anyway, let's get started. Where do I normally start off? I normally start off at the darkest color. So we're going to start off with this Kev Flesh. So we're going to give it a good shake. Give it a shake off screen. And then what we'll do is, I also have this 3D printed device to hold onto my paint so I can get inside of them easier, because they like to keep this lid open for some reason. So I'll be able to dip my pot in there, get the paint I need, and then get out. So what we're going to do is we have our brush here. We're going to get it a little bit of wet. So now it's a little bit of wet right now. You can see. We're going to dip a brush in there, grab a big glob of it. We're going to bring it over to our mixture here, and we're just going to put it on there like that. Now this needs to be watered down a bit more, so we're going to go back to the water, and then we're going to kind of just mix this up. We want this to be the consistency of like a thick milk, almost like a milkshake or something like that. Really thick. So we're going to paint the entire mini. Don't worry about getting it on his nose, his eyes, or anything. Just paint it on there. Get it on there nice and good. And then after you hit an area, don't go back to it. We're done. You know what I mean? We're just, if you miss a spot, it's okay. We're going to put on many layers onto this figure. So you're going to see that, there might be some spots, or it might still be a little thin. So we're just going to make sure that we get, look at this, I'm getting all the way in there, making sure everything is hit. Once we hit a spot, don't go back. See, like this, we don't want a bunch of bubbles, so just blow on it if you get a whole bunch. And make sure you keep going back for more paint. Trying to keep those bubbles to a minimum. If you do get some bubbles, that's okay, but again, we're just trying our best to keep them to a minimum. Now, if you run out of paint, you know what to do. You need to go inside of that pot. Get that out of here. And get some more on there. Maybe down the road, I'll put a video out about 3D printing and stuff like that. If you all are interested. Maybe a video on how it's getting a little bit more paint here. How I do everything, like how it's a little thick. That's okay. So if you can see brush strokes, if you see that, you can see over here, no brush strokes, but if you look down here, you can see brush strokes. It's too thick. But that's okay, you know what I mean? We'll roll with it. As Bob Ross says, there's no mistakes. There's only happy accidents, right? So we're going to get just a little bit more water. I'm going to hit the top of his head here. It's okay if it's a little runny, right? It's all right. Just going to make sure that we don't have any brush strokes. We don't want that. Make sure we get in all of his areas really well. Get his lips. Make sure we don't have any clumps or anything like that. Very nice. So again, if he has a whole bunch of bubbles on his face, just give him a good blow, like that. You can see a few spots I missed, a few clumps, and I think that was a straggler hair right there. So we're just going to kind of knock those off. Now, we need to let this guy fully dry. It shouldn't take too long. Probably somewhere around, somewhere around 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, depending. We'll clean off our brush. Now, I also want to I want to lift this up here real quick. We have two things. We have a dirty pan and then a clean pan. Whenever we go for more paint, we clean off our brush in the dirty pan, then we clean it in the clean pan, then we go back. And whenever we get more paint, we want it to be from the clean pan. That's how we make sure that we get a nice clean colors on there. We can see here the consistency of it. It's a little, I kind of ran out actually. So yeah, we'll leave that on there. And again, we'll come back and we'll do this one next. Flayed one flesh. See you in a bit. Okay, we're back. And here we can see that we waited a little while for it to dry. Now there's a few spots where I went on a little too heavy, you can see. And it's still kind of wet there. But I want you to get a good look at what kind of color we got going on here. You can still see that gray popping back through the face. We're going to want to put on those thin coats as we did before, maybe 1 to 2 more times in addition to this. So probably 3 total layers of very thin coats of that flesh, the Kevlar flesh on top of this before we move on to the next step. Just wanted to show you this, and we'll continue the process, and I'll meet you there. And we're back. Look at this. This is the kind of shade I was talking about that we were looking for. You can see, if you look really closely, a few brush strokes. But overall, it has a nice, even coat of the Kevlar flesh. The Kevlar flesh. I'm not sure on how to pronounce that, but nice, even coat. So, what's next? Next is going to be the flayed one flesh. This is a lighter tone, and actually what we're going to be doing is it's a heavier dry brush. So if you're not sure on what dry brushing is that's when you use a dried brush. Oh, let me zoom in here. Is when you use a dried brush. This is the same one I was using, so it's relatively dry. But if you wanted to, you can get a brand new dry brush. But what we're going to do is we're going to get some paint on here, wipe most of it off, and then we're going to put that on. This is only going to be, we're only going to put this on the accentuated areas. So we're going to try to stay away from the creases. Generally try to stay away from his eyes because we're going to be hitting that with this. So this whole face area, right in here, let me zoom in here, sorry. This whole face area from here to here, probably not including his eyebrows. Maybe we will include his eyebrows, I'm not too sure. So maybe from the eyebrows down, but up to the chin, we're going to give this definition of the face this nice pink hue. But we kind of want, we want most coverage of this, the flayed one flesh. This is going to give him almost like a pale color over this other color. So again, we give it a good shake. Open this up, put it in our nice little 3D printed holder here. Grab some paint, put it in here. And I'm using just the, let me move this back a bit. I'm using just this. So what I'm looking for here is something like this, because we're going to want to do like an 80% coverage, I would say, somewhere in that range. So we're just going to try to slowly move from the bottom up, trying to avoid some of those areas. So if we look real close here, actually I tell you what, let me get this and so if we look kind of close here now, once it decides to focus, see we're slowly moving our way up to the arm. We're trying to avoid this, but we're trying to get as close as we can to it without actually touching it. So we're going to do this over the entire model. Again, get most of it off, because you see, we can't take off paint, but we could put on more paint. So don't be trying to rush this, right? Don't rush it. Don't rush it. We're just trying to get as much coverage on here as we can. Trying to stay away from all those creases in there. Slowly working our way around. Trying to get as close as we can. And look, this is why we have the holder, so we can get at any angle we need to. And don't worry if you put on too much paint, because you know what? I mean, this is just for fun, right? So we're just trying to do our best here. And eventually, when you start to run low on paint, you can feel it too. You can feel that as when you move your brush, not a whole lot's happening. Go ahead and get a little bit more, a little bit more in there. Get it, like, don't be afraid to dig deep and scrub harder. Now we're probably only going to need one coat of this. I don't see us needing more than that, but we'll see. Now again, as we kind of go in here, we're trying to avoid that face, but if we hit it a little bit, that's all right. That is all right. So whenever you just go and get some, start somewhere where, you don't really see it. That way, if you did grab too much paint, it's all right, because it's down here on the tuchus, all right? Or it's on the back of the feet where people won't really see. So start somewhere where people won't really see the paint. That way, you won't be, afraid to get in there and try a little more. So, or another option is start really, really light-handed, and just go over everything, and then slowly get progressively more and more fierce with it. I mean, you can really hear it too. You can hear me scrubbing away on this. We'll just Start off light and slowly get more and more intense as we go along here. Trying to avoid the face, but again, if it happens, it happens, right? Hit the brow, because I think we do want to hit that. Just a little. There we go. You know what? Screw it. Hit the whole thing. Hit that whole thing. We'll see how it all comes out. Really get in there deep with that stuff too. Really, oop, I hit the camera. Sorry about that. Look at that. We're getting in there. It just brings it to life. This color just brings everything to life. Remember, we're trying to shoot for about 80% coverage of this color. And you can kind of see if you look close, we got some places where I went a little too heavy, but that's okay. That's all right. The other reason why you might want a completely dry brush instead of like a damp one like I started off with is you won't have these little bitty, you won't have this. You see that real, you see it in the right light? Where I have like thick paint and then thin paint. If you have a completely dry brush, you probably won't have those. But what I have to do now to get rid of them is really scrub hard to try and basically even them out. To try to make sure that, you know, you can't see those anymore. So we want to make sure that the top of the head is nice and bright. Because, I mean, you know, he's bald. He doesn't got a whole lot on there, so. Yeah, using a good dry brush will go a long ways here. I'm using what I got, so that's why it looks the way it does. And yeah, we're just hitting it from far away. Oh, let me get this in here real quick. There we go. Sorry about that. But yeah, you see how we have those basically blotches? Okay, I wouldn't worry too much about them. Everything will come together. Oops, that was a big bump. Sorry about that. Just giving this guy a nice, even coat. Make sure we get inside of his nose there. And really jam it in there. As long as everything's nice and dry, you should have no difficulty with this. If you're not totally dry and you're doing this and beating it around and you're taking off some paint, then it's not dry. Let it dry a little longer. Give it a little more time. Remember that painting, it's not a race, right? You're just sitting, relaxing, having fun. That's what painting's all about. Having fun, painting along. And anybody could do this. Anybody could do this. I'm not reinventing the wheel here or anything like that. Okay. Look at that. We just kind of chalked him up a bit. If you look, you can see he just looks, you know, plain. He doesn't got a whole lot going on with him. But that's where we're going to add in this last bit here. This folk art. There we go. This warm biscuit right here. That's what we're going to add. It's a pink color. It's a pinky color. So this we're going to do the same thing as we did before, except we're going to do it just to his face. So we're going to open this up. I got like an extremely small dab here. Look at this. I wanted to show you just how small this is. And I haven't cleaned my brush, my dry brush. It's the same brush. And we're just going to get some of this, right? And we're going to wipe most of this off. Now, some people use a napkin or towel or something like that. I would suggest using it. That will really help make sure that you get most of this off, because we don't want anything left on here. So like if you do this, you see how a lot came off? We want barely anything to come off. So just keep going. So now let's try somewhere else so we can see here. You see that? I can't even see anything coming off. That's what we want. And we want to do it just in his face area here. So we're going to just dry brush around here. Get it nice and dry brushed here. This is going to add some serious pink to his face. Now this might take a while because this isn't that bright of a color, and it's just slightly more than what we have here. So we're going to make sure that we take our time, slowly build this up. We'll just keep going back for very small, wipe most of it off. We're talking wipe 90% of this off before we actually touch the figure. All right. And we're just going to keep going around and around until we get this nice pinky color fully invested into his face. I'm going to get just a little bit extra on top of his head here. Now, I know for a lot of people, they're afraid to start painting. They're afraid to start painting because they feel that if they start, they'll mess it up. It won't look good. Well, you got to start somewhere, right? Everyone's got to start somewhere. And if you don't ever start, you'll never know. So, if we look at it, you can only kind of tell. But his face is starting to stick out a little more. You see that? And on the next video, what we'll do is we'll hit all the creases, and then we'll finish off the face, and we'll do his lips. Till then, I'll see you all later. Peace out.